Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be doing a special what if surrounding Trunks. You may have seen this one before. It's what if Trunks stayed in the past, but I'm not calling it that because I feel like that's a common title for it and I want mine to stick out a little bit. I do want to say that I appreciate the support that my channel has gotten recently. I've gotten plenty of subscribers, and while I don't think my videos are the best out there, specifically in my genre, I think that people subscribing to me and doing this gives me a motivation. So while I don't fully understand why so many people are wanting to subscribe to me lately, I will try and keep up the videos and do a couple times a month, minimum, hopefully. Now with that being said, let's get into the video. So we begin the scenario with the end of the Cell Saga and everything that happened there still happening as in canon. Of course, Trunks goes off and finishes his androids in his cell and becomes a lot more powerful due to him wanting to train a lot more. He stays in the past for a few years just in case a major threat arrives in his time that he needs to protect it from. Trunks finally decides to come back around the time that Gohan starts high school, and he begins to reacquaint himself with all his old allies. They are all shocked by how strong he's gotten since they last seen him, and specifically his father Vegeta is certain that he might be on the edge of something great. Vegeta and Bulma would offer to house Trunks during his stay, and he would accept, hoping to grow close to his parents and train with his dad. They eventually would begin to train together, and Vegeta would see the potential that Trunks could have in the future. Everybody would have been in the same position as they would have been in the show until the tournament arrives and Goku would have finally returned to Earth. He would be very excited to see everyone again, and then he would greet his family and his friends up until he meets Trunks, and he would tell him that he would see the potential that he would have had all the way from the afterlife. All the fights and the interactions will go the same as the show, up until the point where the fighters will have to go and deal with the new threat of Buu. Everything remains the same until they get to the ship and the Saiyans enter it, and the fighting will begin. Goku and Vegeta have their fights, and everything is normal up until the point where Gohan wants to fight Deborah, but he's deemed too weak to fight due to him not training, and Trunks steps up instead. Trunks ends up fighting Deborah and defeats him rather quickly, and Babidi is very concerned at this, that he's losing his minions pretty fast, so he tries very hastily to get Vegeta to go on his side. Vegeta resists more than in the show due to having more strong Saiyans to fight, but eventually he succumbs to being a Majin. This would lead to the Goku-Vegeta fight, and Trunks would give Gohan a chance to redeem himself by trying to take out Babidi and prevent Buu from being released. However, due to Goku and Vegeta fighting, neither would be able to achieve their goal, and Buu would end up being reborn. After Buu would have awakened, everyone would want to assess the situation. Babidi would end up trying to get Buu under control, and Gohan would want to challenge Buu. Trunks would try and stop him, but Gohan would tell him that they would have been right earlier and that he wouldn't have been able to defeat Deborah on its own. All he would want to do is make sure that he would have one final time to prove his strength, even if it ends up killing him. Shortly into the fight, Gohan would realize that this would be one that he wouldn't win, and he would look at Trunks one last time before accepting his fate and continuing on. Before the end of the fight, more people would have arrived, and Piccolo and the kids coming to look at what's happening. Piccolo specifically wouldn't like the situation that Gohan would have put himself in, but he'd be glad that he'd be going out on his own terms. Trunks is about to tell Piccolo to get the kids out of there, but that's when Vegeta arrives on the scene, and he's not too happy that there are so many people there. Vegeta ends up saying it instead, and Piccolo agrees, and Kid Trunks comes up and tries to talk to his dad, but this time he leaves willingly, and there's no need to resort to violence. Then it's just future Trunks and Vegeta left, and they stare at each other a little bit before talking, but Trunks has an idea what his dad is about to do. Even Vegeta is feeling the emotion at this point, and he tells his future son to go before he changes his mind. Gohan would have been defeated at this point, and Buu would have just been waiting for his next challenge, and Vegeta would step up, knowing what he has to do. Vegeta ends up sacrificing himself with a massive attack, hoping to wipe Buu out in the process, but unfortunately, it doesn't work. While the other fighters would have been meeting on the lookout, Gohan would have been retrieved by Shin and brought to the world of the Kai so he can recover. Meanwhile, back on the lookout, everyone would have been devastated due to the loss of life that would have just happened. Trunks would be very upset with the situation due to being close with both people affected. While everyone else had been discussing a plan, Trunks to go blow off some steam by training in the time chamber. While Trunks would have only trained for 30 minutes, he would have made some gains, growing ever so closer to his unknown transformation. The next few hours would be spent teaching the kids fusion, while everyone else waits around not knowing Buu's next move. Trunks eventually wants to go and fight Buu, and Goku and the others try and talk him out of it, but being stubborn as he is, he goes off and does it anyways. After searching for a while, Trunks eventually does lock onto Buu's signature and rushes towards him. Babidi recognizes Trunks and tells him that if he wants to die like his friends, he'll gladly arrange it. Buu, of course, is happy to have someone else to fight with and openly accepts Trunks' offer. Goku arrives just in time as Trunks powers up to Super Saiyan, warning him that he will not be able to defeat Buu, and Trunks wants to fight anyways. Goku, seeing that Buu isn't angry, tells him that he'll have a challenge ready for him later on. Goku essentially drags Trunks back from the fight, and meanwhile we catch up with Gohan in the world of the Kais. Gohan had fully recovered, and he'd eventually begun training for his return. They'd even brought out the Z-Zord. Gohan ends up training with it, and Goku does eventually return to the afterlife and meets up with his son after sensing his energy. The same events happen as in the show, with the old Kai getting released from the sword and Gohan getting his ultimate power-up. Though Gohan may not need to fight Buu in this what if, it will cause some interesting consequences later on. Going back to the live world, we have all the events with Buu happening, leading to Super Buu being born. Meanwhile, on the lookout, the fighters do prepare for their clash with Buu, the main ones being Piccolo, Future Trunks, Goten, and Kid Trunks. Goten and Kid Trunks at this point have an early mastery of their transformation and are pretty strong with Gotenks. Future Trunks is working towards his next step in power, hoping to find something beyond Super Saiyan 2. And while he's not quite there, he is getting pretty close to it with all the training he's been doing. Eventually, the time would arrive when Buu would be tired of wreaking havoc on the civilians and would seek out the power of the fighters, hoping to cash in that promise of a fight that Goku had made. He would eventually lock in on their power and find them on the lookout, hoping to find the person that he would be fighting. Piccolo, of course, would orchestrate a fight in the time chamber, with the obvious fighters being a fused Gotenks and Future Trunks. Piccolo would lead them all to the time chamber, with Buu following patiently for the time being. They would enter and Piccolo would stay outside just in case Buu had eventually managed to win. Buu would be ready to fight, but the Saiyans would start to warm up just to get into his head and to prepare themselves. Since no one knew how long the fight would be, Kid Trunks and Goten would stand back while Future Trunks would take the full brunt of the first half. It would be once Trunks finally started to struggle with Buu that the kids would fuse and Gotenks would emerge. Trunks would fall back so they can discuss a strategy, and Gotenks would have a plan, but he'd have to keep Buu busy for it. Trunks would agree, and he would go back to fighting Buu, while Gotenks would charge up his attack. It wouldn't be long before Gotenks would be ready, and he would give a quick warning to Trunks before launching the attack. Gotenks would call it his Ghost Kamikaze attack, and he would throw a bunch of spirit forms at Buu, which would explode when they would touch him. Buu would of course recover from this, but it wouldn't be long before both would resume their attacks, each weakening him in their own ways. At some point, Buu would get tired of it, and he would start to target Gotenks directly, knocking Trunks out of the way. Gotenks wouldn't hold up to the upfront attack, and he would end up getting hurt, knocking him out of the battle temporarily. But at this point, Trunks would have already been mad at Buu from his actions before. This is all he would needed to turn into Super Saiyan 3. The transformation would end up rumbling the room as he would fully appear with his long golden hair, and Buu would end up a little scared. Trunks would start a barrage of attacks, pushing Buu back further and further until he would attempt to break out, only to be hit by another kamikaze attack by Gotenks. The two would start their final push with Buu recovering from his injuries. Gotenks would start charging up a Kamehameha, and Trunks would start to do a burning attack. Buu would purely be shocked at the amount of power that was at display, and while he would attempt to dodge the attacks, the combination of the two would be enough to wipe him out completely. While the Saiyans would be exhausted and they would power out of their Super Saiyan forms, they would have to destroy the pink bits of Buu to make sure he would never come back. Trunks and Gotenks would have worried that they would have gone a little too far and maybe destroyed the door in the process of destroying Buu, but when they looked back, it would have been intact. Relieved, they would exit and see Piccolo standing by the door, and he would hope that this would mean Buu would no longer be a threat. The three would go to the lookout and meet with everyone else, and they would all be relieved, but more surprises would be in store when both Goku and Gohan would arrive. Goku noticeably would have his life back, and Gohan would have appeared to never have been dead in the first place. They would both make a comment about being sad about missing out on the battle and not being able to use their power, but they would be glad that Trunks and Gotenks would have gotten the job done. Trunks would announce that he would be going back to his time and that he spent more than enough time here and now he has to help protect his world again. Though he would look at Goku and he would say that they have to test their powers against each other one day and that he will return. Gohan would have news himself that he'd want to get stronger because he wasn't useful earlier, that he'd want to go continue training with the Kais when he wasn't busy with school. He would still want to visit and see everyone, but he would mainly put his training and schooling above everything else. Alright, now that's going to be it for this video, and I thank you for watching, and this was a fun one to do. This did turn out vastly different than I imagined it to be, and it is harder to come up with a scenario with so little changes but trying to make an impact. I hope if you made it this far that you consider supporting me with a like and subscribe. It really goes a long way to make me motivated to do more videos. Now with that being said, I am out.